living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what I just did to that dude in a debate on Modern Day's debate channel. Mandelbrot Set just sent me a Discord, and it couldn't encapsulate my feelings better. It says, good job, I thought that Sugenis was smarter than that for some reason. What an idiot. Yeah, I was actually quite nervous about doing that debate because I'd never debated a geocentrist before. The guy's called Dr. Sugenis, and he says he's been doing this since 2003 and written books and stuff, but he was just as dumb as all the flat earthers that I've ever spoken to. Arguments from ignorance, lots of nuh-uh. He literally attacked me ad hom and stuff and got shitty and angry and overtalked me before I started doing it back to him. And because I wasn't allowed to swear, I'm now going to do it. Fuck! Bastard dick shit! Oh, that's better. Hello everyone, how you doing? Thank you for joining me in just a quick after show. I just wanted to go through some of the things that happened there and see how you guys thought that went. So who was over watching the debate and what did you guys think about it? Flattered, the moderation on Modern Day Debate is a joke. I see what you mean. James has issues keeping people on track. When I debate, I like to demand answers from people, and like we saw, he dodged all the fucking questions. Didn't answer anything that I was given to him. Inertial forces? What inertial forces? What is the mechanism that you're talking about that causes the Coriolis? Why is that happening? He didn't even know what the Coriolis force was. Fuck me. Bendy says, when I swore, my mic spiked and I self-censored. Yeah, I did. Sorry about that. Holy Smalls for $5 says, here's your prize money for the win. Thank you very much. That was quite an easy win. Drew P. Weiner for $2, £2 says, well done FTFE, thank you. And Irish Demon for $2.99 Australian says, covering the Nathan Thompson super spreader road trip. Yeah, I'm going to be covering that as well. My next Flat Earth Flerfs are Idiots is all about Nathan Thompson and the stupid that he's been doing recently. And also going over his speech from the last Flat Earth conference. I don't expect there'll be another one soon because, you know, COVID. Although the Flat Earthers are likely to still fucking do it, aren't they? Jesus Christ, they're all so stupid. Skimmer Cat says, FTFE, so you're an American now. Yeah, he literally thought that I was Cool Hard Logic. And then blatantly lies about making this animation. No, where's my desktop catcher gone? When I showed him this animation and he fucking said, yeah, I made that. Well, if you made this, then you wouldn't say that is the rotating universe was the reason for it showing a drift, because this does not show a rotating universe. This shows a rotating interferometric gyroscope. You fucking retard. Jesus Christ. You have no idea how hard that was for me not to swear and stuff, guys. Seriously. I can't keep doing that. I'll have a fucking heart attack if I have to go into debates and not swear. We've got Remen Art for $5 Sega Genesis dollars says, great job FTFE, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed my destruction. On the Flame for $5 says, if how you interpret data is not a religious question, why do certain diagnoses pop in and out of existence between versions of the DSM? If you've got a bias, right? If you've got a religious bias like that guy, then you're going to try and make the data fit a certain narrative. But if you interpret the data purely on the data received, then there's only one conclusion you can come to, and a bias is almost irrelevant to that, if you get my meaning. I hope that answers your question. Philosopher, oh my goodness, I'll get so many super chats. Thank you very much, guys. Philosopher King Gaming for $5 says, did he say the Hubble telescope saw redshift in 1929? He did. I would like to talk some more to him and talk about the pound replica experiment. I see Arnold Wayne has joined the dumbass that was over there. Please read the actual materials. You've got all your info from YouTube, LMAO. No, I actually got a lot of my information from the dumbass's website and countered the information with facts. Just so happened a lot of the animations that I required have been done by Cool Hard Logic before. He got all his information from an ignorance of science. Arnold Wayne, only an absolute moron can think that anyone other than me won that debate. And I thought I behaved pretty well. What do you guys think? I'm actually going to send a quick link to MC Toon and get him on, if he's able. All right, MC Toon, I'm just about to send you a link. Get you on another quick chat. I'll just make sure that it can be heard when he comes on. And I'll carry on reading out the super chats, guys. Thank you very much. MC Toon for $4.99 says he redefined all forces, like Coriolis. He has his own version that he invented, exactly. And that's why I pushed the question to him. I pushed it. What is the Coriolis force? What is the mechanism that causes that? And he just kept saying, inertial forces from the universe rotating. What inertial force? And then I asked him to actually say, on the heliocentric model, what's causing it? And he didn't know. His answer was just the Earth rotating underneath, which isn't how it works. Harold for $2 says, James allows dodging. It's being an apologist. Yeah, I think next time I go on to Modern Day Debates, I'm going to ask for a different moderator. Cloessa for 5,000 Ws. Thank you. Fun fact, in the Far East we call heliocentrism geodynamism and geocentrism heliodynamism, so it gets confusism. It gets confusism? It gets confusing. I'm tired, sorry. Really, that's interesting. Wonder what the reason behind that translation being that way is. Danish debater for 50 Donkey Kong dollars says, well done FTFE, he was in hard denial, deflect and dodge mode. It's all science deniers have. Literally all they have. Andreas Eldritch for 56 says, my favourite signs of his ignorance. 1. Rockets push off the air and evolution is only theory. I couldn't believe that he believes in satellites and rockets, but doesn't understand how they fucking work in space. That blew my tiny, tiny little man brain. Absolutely. And then Ziggy I for 51.10 Nokia dollars says, I missed the debate, former god of thigh gaps. I will be mirroring it on my channel in a couple of days, so don't worry. Floss for King Gaming for $5 says, send an invite link to Arnold Wayne in the chat. I want to see him go bitch made. Yeah. Toon, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
So, your opinion is one I value. How did I do?
You did okay. He was obviously, he's been around. He's not new.
No.
Right. So, he said 16 or 17 years. But yeah, so he redefined his own forces.
Yeah, exactly. That blew my mind when he was saying, oh, well, it's the Coriolis force. And then he described something that totally isn't the Coriolis force.
Yeah. So that's like his version of it. But the thing that got me was, his whole point is, he admits at least that he has a bias, that he thinks that it's geocentric because God made it that way and you can't ignore it. But the problem is that by the sound of it, everything is the way that the heliocentric model is, except that the reason behind the forces are different.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like the Earth is in the middle. It looks like nothing's in the middle, but the Earth is in the middle, therefore the Bible, which doesn't, it's not very convincing.
No. And what inertial force do you think he was trying to talk about? Because he wouldn't tell me what force he was talking about. He just kept saying an inertial force. Like, well, he was literally getting centrifugal backwards, right?
Yeah, he says that the entire universe rotates, and that is Coriolis.
Yeah, which is
it
ridiculous.
All rotates around the Earth,
and somehow. That wouldn't explain the difference in a gyroscope and what a ring laser gyroscope detects. And when he's
suggesting that this Coriolis acts like the aether that they used to believe in.
Yeah, we didn't even really get to talk about aether because it was cut a little shorter than I would liked. But I watched a debate of him in a couple of years ago, and he kept saying things like, "Oh well, Einstein brought back the aether. Einstein brought back the aether." And I wanted him to say that to me because, Einstein was not talking about the luminiferous aether. It was a completely different concept and stuff. Like, So what I felt like was it was very much like debating a flat earther. Arguments from ignorance, lots of nutter, making up laws of physics to suit the narrative, and not answering questions. Would you agree?
Yeah, and a lot of special pleading.
A lot, yeah, absolutely. An incredible amount of special pleading. And I don't feel like he answered a single question of mine.
No, he's like, read my book, buy my books.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically his evidence is read something that I've already written. No, you can't cite yourself. That's not how this works. And how was my behavior? I tried to behave.
You almost made him leave.
I know, but I felt like I was being quite good. He was the one that started over talking and shouting first. He got triggered so much just by me saying, no, you're wrong, and this is the facts. And I felt like I was really well behaved for me, you know?
Well, yes, you were at top FTFE behavior.
Yeah. I did poke him a little bit with, the Adam Sandler movie clip and stuff, but I felt like that was appropriate.
Oh, James is like, I can't laugh. Don't laugh, but he's laughing.
Oh, Rumpus wants to come on. Yeah, Rumpus, I will send you a link. 2 seconds, mate. I'll just read the super chats that I've got. Oflamu says, for $5, what is my definition of a science denier? Somebody that denies the scientific consensus and just twists it to fit their narrative. Flat earthers, young earth creationists, geocentrists. Anyone else to add to that list? Oh, 5G people, anti-vaxxers. These are all science deniers.
Yeah.
Huge Arse for $7.99 Australian says, Robert reads something about science in a book, didn't know how to interpret it, but thinks he does. Yeah, misinterpretation of science, typical Flerf, even though he wasn't a Flerf, but he basically was. Farron Sells for $4.99 says, Robert nailed his own coughing, not knowing what a scientific theory was. Yeah, I wanted to respond to that when he started going, evolution is just a theory. Oh my God. All right, let me send a link to the Rumpus quickly. 2 secs, Rumpus, I will send you an email.
Hey, I crossed 10,000 subscribers today.
Congratulations. If there's anyone that deserves it, it's you.
Oh,
how's it
cool
feel
milestone.
to be in the 4-figure club? Well, the 5-figure club, really.
Don't worry, it's 5, 6, 7, whatever.
Yeah, I've just debated an idiot. My brain's a bit fuzzy.
Now I get to go to the secret NASA moon base twice a month.
Yeah,
so
twice a month, and you're allowed an extra bag of chips at the canteen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wait, chips or fries?
Oh, fries. That's what we call chips. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
No, congratulations. Seriously, you are one of my favorite content creators on YouTube, and one of the people that I love interacting with. So congratulations on the 10K. And if anybody here watching isn't subscribed to MC Toon, then there's something wrong with you and you really should be. If you like to see someone not lose their shit when they're debating a flat earther, then he's the guy to watch. Theo Fungi for £5.
Just once.
Just once. And I love it when you do lose your shit, though, because you just go into dad mode. No. It's like, I reckon you use that exact tone and face with your kids when they're screwing about.
Oh, yep. Yeah. It's practiced.
Theo Fungi for £5 says, Robert is the hero of his own mental movie and forgets to switch it off for reality. Mikey Cage is a new member. Thank you, you awesome person. And Naz Hussein is also a new member. Thank you, you awesome person. Chef Allen says, I better say that to all the boys. Well, you know. But I had fun. I was honestly nervous going into that debate because I'd never researched geocentrism. Like, never. And James just messaged me and he was like, do you want to debate a geocentrist? I was like, yeah, why not? So I'd done a bit of research over the past week. And like I said, I found pretty much what you find with Flat Earth, that it's just denial of science, not understanding basic thing, twisting quotes to fit your narrative. It's just another branch of Flat Earthism, as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They start with a conclusion.
Yeah.
Often based on a religious position, and then seek out evidence to support it, ignoring things that don't, and then therefore proved.
Rumpus, I've sent you a link to two different emails, Rumpus. So there's another one. He says to me in email, Craig, you did well at points, but you did overtalk him a bit, which I know is irresistible. You're right, I did overtalk him a bit, but the thing is, when I overtalk someone, there's a reason for it, because I ask very specific questions, right? And it's like when talking to a flat earther, you ask a very, very specific question and they won't answer. They go off on a tangent. They try to dance around answering the question. So when I overtalk, it's because I'm like, no, you haven't answered my question. Go back and answer the question, which they don't like. They want to waffle because they think that then maybe you'll forget about the question or they can get around answering it. But yeah, if I overtalk, it's because I want them to answer a fucking question.
Yeah.
You know how frustrating that is, Toon, right? When you're speaking to a flat earther and you want an answer and they dance around it so much.
Yeah, I've never gotten one.
No.
Not yet.
Oflamo for $5 says, was Galileo a science denier when he denied the scientific consensus of the geocentric model at the time? That's different. Science has been, it's a lot better proven now with more technology and stuff. Galileo was going against the grain, and it was more against the church than against science. The church decided what was science in that time, which was stupid. So no, he wasn't a science denier because he actually followed the scientific method with what he did. Andreas Elditch for 26 says, my subscriber number also starts with a 5. Well done for 5 subscribers. And then Tommy Honsetti for £5. Thank you. Rumpus, how the devil are you doing?
Hello, Craig. How are you? Not too bad. I was feeling a bit rough over Christmas, but yeah, not too bad at the moment. So yeah, in fact, quite perky.
I'm glad you're feeling better, bud.
Yeah, I think he did quite well. But as I say, I know there were bits where he was dodging you, and you were right to pursue him then. But I did think you did sound a little bit nervous to me. And I think you were a little bit overeager at times when he was giving a slow answer to something. You couldn't help getting in there. And I know he's really annoying. Yeah. I know what it's like. So I sympathise. But I thought you just slightly went more than I would like. But it wasn't outrageous or something, but just slightly more than you needed to. And I totally understand the bit about the Coriolis crap, the inertial forces, where he clearly doesn't know what an inertial force is. And then, of course, there was the absolute stonker with the rocket stuff. And I was just thinking, oh, my God, this is a guy who claims to know Newton's laws, the even bigger one, F is equal to ma doesn't quite work, and you need he said something about calculus or something, the variation, and therefore you needed to allow for the centrifugal force and centripetal force with m is F is equal to ma. What the hell are you talking about, you moron? Oh my God,
that's just more forces. You it's the sum of the forces.
Yeah.
He said F equals ma is right. He said F equals ma is right as long as you add on centrifugal and centripetal and inertial forces and the Euler force or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you've got to add those, and then the F equals ma works.
Yeah, and that's where the F is. That F doesn't stand for any particular force. It can be any force you like. So you can stuff any number you like in there. So it's not exclusive. If you've got a force, you can stick it in that F and you're away. It doesn't neglect. You can stick your centripetal force in there. You can stick your Coriolis force. You can stick your centripetal, and it works happily. Yeah. My God, he seems to think it's exclusive to something, I don't know what. There are only certain sort of forces you're allowed to stick in that F is equal to ma. What the hell?
And how wrong he got the Coriolis force blew my mind. And that was one thing I kept pushing. Explain to me what the mechanism of the Coriolis force is. And then he disagreed that a bullet would drift ahead of the rotation when firing north. And it was clear that he didn't have a clue what the Coriolis force was. It's just a word he's picked up, applied to an imaginary force that he wants from the universe rotating, and tried to make it fit reality, which it just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, when he tried to define it, he got it mixed up with centripetal force. Yeah. And he then also said it was twice the magnitude of the centripetal force. Now, I was hoping you were going to ask him for the formula for it, because I think he claims to understand maths, doesn't he? So it would be really nice for him to have offered, I mean, this is the sort of thing I would have done. I said, okay then, you claim to understand this, can you please give me the formula? It's not that long, it's moderately long, but it's not that long. And so you can then ask him to go through the terms, because I don't believe he could do that, and he certainly doesn't know what cross products are, which are part of this Coriolis force. And in that, so he wouldn't have been able to do that basically.
No.
And he got it mixed up with the centripetal force. He doesn't know what an inertial force was, and I didn't quite understand it. Perhaps I missed the. Did you go through bit of the something like Neptune would have to go at the speed of light? If the Earth was rotating.
I was going to bring that up as because if the geocentric universe is as they say, then it's going to have a finite radius because nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So you would calculate what one light day was, and the radius would be something like 44 billion miles or something, right?
It's Neptune. It's somewhere in Neptune Uranus.
And anything out, Neptune would be just outside that range, and to orbit and match what we see in reality, it would have to be going superluminal speeds. However, they kind of get around that argument by saying, well, it's not really going faster than light because the entire universe is rotating and light moves within the universe. Which, doesn't make sense.
What? Right,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the speed of light is only constant when you compare it to the reference frame of the rotating universe, according to them.
Yes, but the point is, it's getting to you from Neptune, so it has to be doing that at the speed of light. So, and it has to be moving across your line of sight at that speed. So, I don't quite see how that gets them out of that hole. By the way, I did think it was quite clear you had done some research, so I thought that was good. I mean, you mentioned things like the Haversine formula, and there were a couple of other points that you clearly had researched. So I thought that was good. That was where you did well. But and the other so I don't understand how that gets them out of that hole. The what you're saying, because it has to go across your line of sight. If it's at that distance and it's rotating, I don't care if the space time. I think you're implying that he's going to say the space time is moving at that thing, but nonetheless, it's got to get to you and moving. So no, that doesn't help him. Yeah,
nothing he said helped him because there is no explanation for what he actually says.
Well, I remember it. Sorry to interrupt you again. There was a bit where you said he said about the Martian retrograde motion, and you said you couldn't emulate that with the geocentric thing. You can. Imagine, but you did then come back correctly, absolutely correctly, so you did well. You then sort of made up for that by saying you'd have to have the Ptolemaic epicycles to make up. So imagine you get one of those, what's those things called that emulate the solar system? Those little models that rotate, there's a name for them. Anyway,
I can't think of it right now.
There's a little model with the sun in the centre, and then the little planets go around it. There's a special name for it. The Napoleon was given one to represent what was going on. Anyway, there's a name of that model, and if you have the sun in the centre, and then you have the planets go around, everything's nice and fine. But now imagine you picked up this little clockwork mechanism, and you held on to the Earth, then the mechanism would rotate around the Earth, and you would get exactly the same thing, and that would include the retrograde Martian motion of Mars. But as you correctly pointed out, well, then you've got to justify what the hell is going on with these epicycles. What the force? How can you justify these orbits and these strange motions? So you can get the same visual effect, but then you've got to explain the physics.
that was my point. You can write it out. Like he said, oh, well, if you just draw it out and you do the circles, then you can see it works. Like, yeah, okay, you can map it out so that it has some kind of fluidity and stuff on a geocentric universe, but you have to explain why it's doing that. The only reason that a planet would actually do that, as we saw by the discovery of Neptune, is that if there is a massive body influencing it. So for each of those retrograde motions where it's going round, there would have to be a body in the middle of that loop, and it's just ad hoc.
It's called an orrery, by the way, this little model of the solar system.
Yeah. What were you going to say, too?
I got the impression that he wasn't quite. Maybe he did mention the multiple orbits and that the sun is the third orbit, but like it almost seemed like he almost like how what's his name does the guy that goes both ways. Why can't I remember his name? Mock Earth guy.
Oh, Gleam.
Oh, God, that's wrong.
Gleam, yeah. You know how Gleam's like, well, both models work. So it was almost like that where he's like, well, everything looks just like it looks in the heliocentric model, except that the Earth is in the middle. And everything does the same motion, the same orbit, the same movement, but there's different magical forces that we invented to explain it.
Yeah, and it is just magical forces. He just kept saying inertial force. as though that was like an explanation for everything. Oh, well, it's the inertial forces of the universe moving. What inertial force? What are you talking about?
And the fact that apparently affects the northern hemisphere differently from the southern hemsphere?
Yeah,
what?
Exactly.
Randomly? What the hell are you...
He brushed over that as well, because he even agreed, at the equator, Foucault's pendulum is not going to move at all. And then didn't explain why that was on his model.
Yeah. He really was he was definitely very Weasley when you were asking about that stuff and how what forces can be exerted. What the hell is causing this the Coriolis force if it's not the thing rotating? The only way you can explain the maths. Otherwise, you've got some strange force that's coming in from the outside world and affecting things differently in the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. Why, if the Earth is stationary? Why is the top of this sphere? Well, there's no top and bottom, of course. What? There is no. What? Why is? It's just insane.
So he calls himself Doctor Segenis, but I was not going to call him that because I found out where he got his qualifications from, so in 2006 he received a PhD in religious studies from the Calamus International University, an uncredited distance learning institution incorporated in the Republic of Vanuatu.
That must have cost about $50.
Yeah,
about 30 seconds effort and $50, and that would sort it.
And someone else pointed out in my Discord that you can't even find this university on Google Earth. There's nothing there. You can find the Republic of Vanuatu, which is a chain of about 80 islands, but bugger know if there's any bloody... So, Doctor my ass, and I was not going to call him Doctor. Vanuatu, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a recent country, and it's incredibly tiny. It's an ex-British colony, and I can't remember. They're attached to us in some way, shape, or form, and they are incredibly tiny. And there are just about 5 people and a duck, I think, live there. It's just ridiculous.
And the fact he's trying to come to a science debate when and push himself as this knowledgeable scholar when he's literally paid an online diploma mill for a PhD.
Yeah.
In religious studies. All right, you know what? I'm not knocking someone who gets a PhD in religious studies. You obviously know a lot about religion, or you think you do. You've studied it, but that gives you no right to try and discredit all of science. MC Toon is very religious, but he would never try and use his religious beliefs to discredit science, right? I mean, that's just that's ridiculous.
Presumably in his mind, he's not discrediting science. Presumably in his mind, he thinks he's directing us around the right channel. Somehow all these scientists and all these institutions over the last 100 years, and Einstein are all slightly wrong, and that F is not quite equal to MA and needs lots of corrections, and Newton was wrong as well. So he's just nudging us into the correct path in his head.
Yes. I was surprised, honestly, because I had not debated that before, and I thought he was going to be smarter than he was, and I felt a little nervous going into it, but very quickly I realized that I was just debating another flat earther.
He was. Yeah.
And
he was a bit brighter than your average flat earther, I thought. Definitely a bit brighter.
I think because he'd been doing what he does since 2003, he says he seems very, very confident in what he says. And
he claims to know things like calculus, which most flat earth... I don't think there's a single flat earther that I've encountered... I don't think there's a single one, possibly except some potentially have got some Dr. John Dee or something, so presumably he may have heard of calculus, but I'm not familiar with any flat earther that knows calculus, and he does, and he's got some equations in that book. I was just about to look it up before we came on here. Does include some calculations that he's done, then that's definitely a grade above your average flatty.
Yeah. And he's published books and stuff, but
yeah,
still,
but that takes quite a lot doing.
Yeah. Everything that he said was just argument from ignorance, and it did feel like debating a flat earther, but maybe a well-spoken, well-researched one.
Yeah, I mean, he knew about things like the Michelson... Well done, by the way, for researching the Michelson-Gale thing. That's the one thing I keep on meaning to look into. If I was ever going to debate him, I might go and ask the guy who runs it, because I wanted to debate that guy for years, actually.
Yeah.
So well done for researching that, and that's exactly... and a couple of other points that you researched well, so well done. Well, A1 for doing that, because I haven't researched that, and as you say...
Yeah, it's quite interesting, and it destroys a lot of Gleam's arguments as well about, the MMX and the Michelson-Gale experiment, they still registered this little bit of fringe, so there obviously was some kind of ether, but when you actually look at the statistical analysis of the equipment that they were using, you can see that, it actually came from, reverberations in the machine and stuff, and you can see why it's being caused, and, you know,
well, they say so. Mickelson said, "Here's my margin of error. This is what I know. It can't resolve any more than that." And it was within that. Yeah. So I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's within a margin of error. His equipment was not capable of resolving that. So if you get, it's effectively noise.
So it says, in short, this is every experimenter's nightmare. He was unknowingly looking at statistically insignificant patterns in his systematic drift that mimic the appearance of a real signal. An upper limit on absolute motion of 6 kilometers per second is derived from his raw data, fully consistent with similar experimental results and the prediction of special relativity. So, yeah, it was just, you know, what you expected.
And then he did more accurate ones. And then, of course, he then did one that was 10 times more accurate, I think, was it 10 years later?
Yeah, I think that was when you get down to the Dayton Miller experiments in like 1930s. You know, and even,
that was it. Yeah,
the same problem. You know, this paper was actually written on analysis of the difference between Mickelson, Gale, and Dayton Miller's experiments, and you could still see the same statistical margin of error that you.
But it was less. It wasn't not in the second experiment. Did it? Because his experiment was 10 times better the second time around. Therefore, his error was 10 times less, and he still didn't get a positive. You know, he still didn't get any signal. So if the previous one, that eliminates the possibility of his first one being a valid result.
Yeah.
Well, there's hundreds of Michelson-Morley experiments that have been done, even recently, that are millions of times more precise.
Yeah, and they're done all the time.
Michelson-Gale is a fiber optic gyroscope, basically. It's it's the same thing. It's just really big because they didn't have the precision. And it doesn't let ether work, because if on the one hand you didn't the Earth on Michelson-Morley, if you take a different interpretation and say either the ether exists and the Earth is stationary, or the Earth is moving at the same rate as the ether, well, then you go to Michelson-Gale and you see, well, there's a rotation. So it can't be that the ether is, the Earth and ether are stationary together and there's a rotation. It's one or the other.
Yeah. I think I'm going to... I think I want to do an actual proper debunk video on geocentrism now, because it's so easy to debunk. Just from what I've learned from debunking flat Earth, so much of it applies. And I was disappointed with him. I honestly was disappointed. I was looking for someone that would actually come and intellectually challenge me, but he didn't. He just argued from ignorance, and it was frustrating. And, I still think I behaved well, for me.
For you, you did. Yes, you were quite restrained, but I still think you overdid it in places. But did you say you'd looked at the cold hard logic? Because that is an absolute gold mine of information on this. Things like where the sun, for the geocentric model, it requires the sun to move up and down randomly throughout the seasons. And then, of course, you've also got things like the phases of the moon, phases of Venus and Mars, which are impossible.
That was one thing I was going to bring up, was the phases of Venus, because Venus would be inside the where the sun was. Yeah, if we look at Venus, we can see the phases of Venus, and it would not ever match with the position of the sun in the geocentric universe. It only makes sense if Venus is orbiting a central thing.
Correct.
And that also applies to so many other planets. You can look at the phases of all the moons around Jupiter, and not one of them makes sense in the geocentric world, because Jupiter is orbiting outside of the sun's orbit, which would be moving at different tangential speeds, and would never give those shadows on those like 60 plus Jovian moons that we see the way that we do. It's none of it matches reality.
Right.
Richard Pritasov says, in the chat, crass and craps. That was what Cold Hard Logic was saying about the model and the lack of explanation. Yeah, I did watch all of Cold Hard Logic's testing geocentrism series over the past couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Those are 6 of them, aren't there? I think they're absolutely superb.
I think there's 12, actually, I watched.
Okay. I used to chat with him a lot, actually, and he's
really
there. That stuff is really good, yeah.
Oh, God, I'd love to chat with him. He's like one of the OGs,
He's absolutely stonk. I'm afraid I'm going to accuse him of using the bollocks. When he did that, I was going to use that in my visual. I still haven't made that many, and I then told him off for using my idea. Although obviously he'd used it first, and we had a bit of a jokey sort of apologising to one another about him stealing it, and I said, "Oh well, you can use it, etc." So that's quite sad. And we used to chat and have a go at Geocentrism a lot in the but when there was the Google Talk thing, or whatever it was, we used to pile up together on various geocentrists who must have seemed to have disappeared. And there's so much good. The content in those videos beats a bloody encyclopedia. The stuff about the phases of moons, the orbiting, the movement of the sun, what the alternatives are, because you've got to argue: does the sun, for instance, go up and down the ecliptic vertically, or in which case you'd be able to see? Or does it lean in? Because if you could see it going up and down vertically, you'd be able to see the bottom of the sun. You'd be able to see different parts of the sun. This just doesn't happen.
If like I said that in opening, that in a geocentric universe, as the sun moves up and down, it would have to change its axial tilt to match what we actually see when we're looking at the sun. And every day it would have to precess, exactly 180 degrees each day. But that, what force is causing the sun to do that? And then if you take that as the ecliptic, when you can look at what the planets and do and everything, and we've got an ecliptic plane that we can point out, and if you try and match the rotation of all the planets to the ecliptic plane and to what the sun's doing, you get like a absolutely crazy movement that the planets have to do up and down and round to match the kind of wobble that the sun's doing, and none of it makes sense in the slightest.
Exactly. Although you say you can visually with those orreries, you can reproduce it. You then have to say what is causing this to happen, and the fact also that the Newton's law about law of gravitation, the barrier center, of course, means that it should go around the sun. Just looking from that point of view, because that's what we were talking about, holding the Earth stationary in these orreries. Well, hold on, that's not in the center of mass of the system. So it just doesn't work from that point of view as well. It's just
there was so much I'd researched and so many notes I'd made. I'd written like pages and pages of examples, and I got loads of stuff programmed in. So much I didn't get to that I actually want to debate more geocentrists now.
Definitely. You shouldn't have used that movie clip, by the way. That was naughty.
Oh, come on!
It was naughty.
It was the perfect time. It was the perfect time.
It was naughty. It was naughty, Craig. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm glad I did.
No, you shouldn't have done. No, you look back at it and say I was a bit too naughty there. That was definitely a naughtiness.
Yeah, I had to put a little bit of that in.
I can understand he almost went at that point. And I must admit, you see, if someone did that to me, you have to remember that he thinks he's correct. So this is the big problem. You've got to think from this point of view. From his point of view, he's arguing correctly and you're wrong. So to do that, imagine if a flat earther did that to you. You'd be quite annoyed, I think.
Oh, well, I don't know. I've had flat earthers do way worse to me, to be honest. It's all part of the game, But the thing is, I felt like he overtalked. He definitely interrupted me first, and he definitely got more angry and shouty than I did first. And then I took that as like all right, I can screw him a little bit.
License to kill. Okay.
Yeah, I could see him getting triggered, and I just knew that I could maybe push him to exploding and.
But you didn't need to do that. See, that's the thing. I know I've got a reputation of being argumentative. I would go here with the Mattoon type style because be quiet, Mattoon. You git.
What is it? What is it you say, Rumpus? I think your favourite quote is "You're an utter moron."
I have to be provoked by someone being really bad. In his case, because he's a bit more intelligent, I would have used the more Mattoon style and just simply pulled them apart with the evidence and the logic and the physics that you can deliver.
I had fun. I had a lot of fun.
Mattoon, you little devil. He's a meanie, really, isn't he? He's a meanie. Yeah, I saw you having a go at that last flat earther you had on. I thought you were a bit naughty then, Mattoon, so don't give me any jip.
Oh, I love it when MC Toon actually loses his temper, though. It's like those rare golden moments, You don't get it very often, but when he does, I get terrified just watching him. I'm like, sorry, Dad. Wait, what? What did I just say? But it's quite late for me, guys. I just wanted to have a quick after show and have a chat with you and say thank you for supporting me. I'm going to read some super chats and get out of here for tonight. Rumpus, thank you for coming on. We should have you on more often. And MC Toon, congratulations for 10K. You absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, well done,
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to read some super chats. He said, fancy coat, fuck's sake, fancy coat for $5. I love how he said with a straight face that a snake has the ability to talk. Yeah. Then we've got Gaza, the Master Reviewer, says he's trying to become a member, but the link isn't working. Well done tonight, by the way, FTFE. Thank you very much. Just maybe try refreshing and hitting it again. Gary Newbury for $1.99 says, rip Fred Durst, lol. Yeah, me and MC Toon killed Fred Durst recently. Sorry about that. Richard Purtisev for $2 says...
bargain basement Fred Durst.
Yeah, Fred Durst ordered from Wish. Richard Purtisev for $2 says, why debate geocentrism? Cool Hard Logic destroyed it. Because there's still people that think it's true. Excuse me.
Like him?
Yeah.
He made a film about it. Let's not forget, this guy made a bloody Hollywood film about this.
I can't wait to watch that and maybe do a debunk on it. Harold for $2 says, bring Rumpus on more often. Yeah, I really should. Rumpus is awesome. Danish Debater for $50 Donkey Kong dollars says, with the rocket robot satellite question, I just wanted to know what he thought of Voyager 1 and 2's images of the solar system. Not pigeonhole him. I didn't get around to asking these simple questions, unfortunately, because it was shorter than I wanted. Philosopher King Gaming for $5 says, I don't know the last time you had someone debate who was expected to intellectually challenge you guys. You found a climate change denying anti-vaxxer. Yeah, none of these people are intellectually sound, are they? Oflamo for $5 says, if geocentrism is easy to debunk, why not find something that's hard to debunk that is generally accepted like Galileo did? Because most of the science has kind of been done now and there isn't many things to debunk. You know, Galileo did that for me, so I don't need to. Richard Purtisev for $2 says, watch Cold Hard Logic's testing flat art as well, FTFE. You know I fucking did. It's one of the reasons I started my channel. But thank you everyone for supporting me and coming over to watch me on Modern Day Debate and then a brief hangout here. I really appreciate it. Thank you Toon and Rumpus for coming on. I'll be mirroring the debate quite soon, and there may be another debate on my channel tomorrow, and in the next few days you get another episode of Flerfs Are Idiots. I'm going to bed. I love you all. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth.
Fight the flat, 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 fight the flat.